Are you worried about sugar in your child's diet? Are you confused about added sugar, natural sugar? Which one should your child be eating, and should he be eating any sugar at all? Hey friends, my name's Jill Castle and I'm the host of this channel. Welcome. And today we are talking about added sugar versus natural sugar. Two very different things, and I want to break it down for you today. But before we get started, subscribe to my channel, give me a like, or make a comment if there's something that resonates with you today. I release a video every week, and this is the one I'm talking about this week, sugar. Now, we just recently had the Dietary Guidelines come out for 2020, and in those guidelines, we did get some recommendations about sugar. Now, I talked about those guidelines in another video that was really focused on the birth to 24-month-old child, which is a new category for the Dietary Guidelines. And in those recommendations, they say no sugar, no added sugar for babies and very young toddlers. But what do we know about sugar for older children? That's what we're going to get into right now. First, let's break down the definition of added sugar versus natural sugars. And let's talk about natural sugars first, because they're pretty easy to find, but not always intuitive. So natural sugars are the sugars that nature intended to be there. So if you think about dairy products like milk or yogurt, those products have a natural sugar called lactose. Lactose, anything that ends with OSE, you can pretty much guarantee that that is a type of sugar. And in dairy products, we have lactose. Lactose is also called milk sugar. It is naturally found there. Nature put it there. Humans didn't add it. It just automatically comes with the product. Another type of natural sugar is fructose. Fructose is found in fruit. So things like apples and bananas, grapes, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. You think of a fruit, you're going to find fructose in that fruit. So fructose is naturally present in all types of fruit. If you think about fresh fruit that has all the vitamins and minerals, and then you have the skin of fresh fruit like an apple, which is full of fiber, those things are naturally there. If we take fresh fruit and we concentrate it or condense it into juice, it is still natural sugar because it's just more concentrated. And so sometimes people get confused about juice versus fresh fruit because there are more grams of sugar, or really carbohydrate, in 100% juice, but that is still natural sugar. Unless, of course, you buy a fruit juice beverage or a fruit juice drink that might have started with fresh fruit, or extra sugar was added in to sweeten it up. So with natural sugars, they are already there. Nature put them there, humans did not. Now let's talk about added sugar. Added sugar is things like cane sugar, table sugar, brown sugar. These are sources of sweetener or sugar that gets added to a product. So think about making cookies, and I'm going to do that this weekend. If you're making cookies, you add sugar generally to the recipe. That is added sugar. You're putting sugar into the end product. Now, added sugar is found in lots of different foods. So anywhere from sugary cereals to granola bars, to fruited yogurt, where you would find the natural sugar lactose there, but you would also find added sugar in those yogurts as well because they're sweetened. There's other things like candy. These are so obvious, right? Candy, soda, lemonade, sports drinks, desserts, cupcakes, cookies, pies, cake, all of those desserty, sugary foods, they all have added sugar. Added sugar has been added to the product to make it sweet. They are not naturally full of natural sources of sugar. We add sugar to it. So those are the differences between natural sugar and added sugar. A rule of thumb to remember is that natural sugars generally have other nutrients packaged in. So when we think about lactose in dairy products, we know that there's also protein there and calcium, vitamin D, other vitamins and minerals included in that package. The same goes for fruit, where you will find the natural sugar fructose. You'll also find other nutrients like vitamin C and fiber, as I mentioned before. So whenever we are having foods that have natural sugars in them, we're also getting other nutrients for our own bodies. And when we feed them to our children, we're giving our children not only a natural source of sugar, but also other nutrients that can benefit their health. So the Dietary Guidelines recommends that children over the age of 2 get no more than 10% of their daily caloric intake from added sugars. So how do you track that? Well, we call upon our nutrient fact panel, which you find on products. So whenever you buy a product, a packaged product in the grocery store, you can turn it over and on the back you'll see the nutrition facts panel. And now, because of recent legislation, we actually have a line that tells us exactly how much added sugar is in the product based on one serving. So we know that recent studies and surveys tell us that children between the ages of 2 and 13 actually go above and beyond that 10% recommendation. So if you have a child in that age range, there's a good chance that they're eking over that 10% limit. I'm not a huge fan of tracking all of those grams of sugar and counting calories or any of that for your child, but I am a fan of being aware of where your child is getting added sugar from in his diet and keeping a cap on that. So one of the ways that, as I mentioned earlier, those obvious forms of added sugar is really just trying to keep track of that. How many of those added sugar, high sugary, obvious sugary foods is your child eating each day? So if your child's eating candy and drinking a soda and maybe having a sugary cereal for breakfast, you're probably over that limit of 10% calories from added sugar. So for example, if we try to break down the numbers from those calorie limits, if we looked at the grams of added sugar for a 3-year-old, for example, we're talking about 30 grams of added sugar per day as that 10% limit. Again, how can you figure out if your child's getting up to 30 grams of added sugar per day? You have to look at those nutrition fact panels. You need to look at how many grams of added sugar are in a serving of food. But again, I think the easiest way to do it is just to really keep track of those obvious sources of added sugar, cookies, cakes, candy, sweetened beverages, and keep a cap on those. I like to say balance it out with my 90-10 rule, which I have written about on my blog, The Nourished Child. But the 90-10 rule is really keep 90% of what your child is eating during the day, wholesome, healthy foods that come from each of those food groups that we talk about a lot, the protein foods, the whole grains, fruits, vegetables, dairy, and healthy fats. And 10% is available for those fun foods or those foods that have added sugar in them. And basically what that is going to boil down to is about 1 or 2 fun foods per day or 1 or 2 sugary treat items per day on average. So again, you can have a day where you have lots of sugary treats, but you can follow that up with a day or 2 that you don't have very many sugary treats at all, if any. So it's really a balancing act over the course of a week. You want to strike about 1 to 2 sugary foods, sugary sweets or treats per day on average over the course of a week. And then just one thing to clarify, again, that limit of 10% added sugar does not include natural sugars. Okay, that's why we separated out natural versus added sugar. That 10% limit really just hones in on added sugary foods, added sugar to foods, sweets and treats, not the natural things like milk and fruit. Okay, that's That's the difference between added sugar and natural sugar, my friends. I think one more thing I just want to say about sweets and treats, and it's this. If you're serving sweets and treats, let your child enjoy them. Don't put lots of limits around them. Don't get all worked up and start to hover and control and all that stuff that sometimes we do when we get nervous about sweets. Let your child enjoy the sweets that he's having. You are in charge of how often and what types of sweets that you offer your child and what you stock in your home. But once you open the gates and say, we're having sweets, then, let him enjoy it. That's it today, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this session, this video about added sugar and natural sugars. If you did like this video, please give me a thumbs up, hit the button down below and subscribe to my channel or leave me a comment. As always, I hope this helps you feed and nourish your family better. Take care and I'll see you next time.